Hello, Star Trek fans, and welcome to the Rebinge Deep Space Nine podcast. My name is Kim.
And my name is James.
And we're watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine from the beginning, one episode at a time. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are on Season 5, Episode 26, Call to Arms. This episode, the season finale, aired June 16th, 1997. Before we talk about this one, anything to say about last week's podcast? The baseball card episode? In the cards?
No, it was perfect. You know, there's some more over-analysis, because I went and rewatched that episode again.
Oh, an addendum.
First of all, I think we were seeing Jake's obsessive nature coming out again.
Still a thing.
The next thing is, and here's a theory. So the Dominion clearly like Bashir and keep on wanting to replicate him. I think it's because they see Khan in him. They obviously know human history, and they know what Khan was like, and they see Bashir as a genetically engineered person who could be a over-ambitious egomaniac intent on absolute subjugation of all humans, and they go, hey, my kind of person.
Help me, Julian. You're our only hope. Oh, that's an interesting theory. I like it.
Or, and this is another idea,
yeah,
maybe the Vorta see Julian as kind of a kindred spirit because they're genetically engineered. So maybe they look at Julian and go, hey, we really like him. He's kind of like us. And then they keep on suggesting that the Founders should replicate him.
Creative genetics. Is that what Wayun said? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He has an interest in it.
They figure eventually he'll come over to the dark side.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then my final idea here.
Oh.
Maybe it's because Julian, he is a little bit out there at times. So if a changeling replicated Julian and gets some things wrong when he's imitating Julian, you would put that down to, oh, it's Julian being Julian. He's missing social cues or he's being awkward or something like that.
Right.
You just put it down to, it's Julian's normal level of being slightly weird.
Sure.
Those are my theories after watching that episode again.
All right. Yeah, I'll accept it. The overanalysis addendum. Well, should we get going here on the season finale? And just as a little note before we get started, we are, again, recording a couple of weeks ahead of time, and it is a real heat wave in San Diego. So if by some chance you might hear a fan noise or something that sounds like a way for us to keep ourselves alive while it is super hot, please forgive us, but it's incredibly hot today.
Kim shouting, I'm melting.
Oh my
God.
God.
And the podcast abruptly cutting off.
I'm very sensitive to heat, having been raised in the cold. I would so much rather turn the furnace off and let it get cold in the house than turn off the AC and let it get hot. But anyway, here we are, for you fans.
Indeed. And I will be doing the walkthrough this week as Kim has discovered that, hey, it's a lot of fun only doing 50% of the walkthroughs of the episodes.
I like being the color commentary. This is a fun part of the job. Having someone else do all the notes and the hard work is amazing.
So we should get started.
All right.
We open with Rom and Leeta looking at designs of a wedding dress, which Leeta describes as 2 handkerchiefs and a loincloth, which I looked at and thought, this looks like Emma Frost's 1980s costume design from X-Men.
I don't know. You showed that to me and asked if this is what it looked like. I really felt like it was just somebody's fantasy of female lingerie.
Well, that really kind of was Emma Frost's outfit from X-Men.
Yeah, not that different.
Well, Leeta isn't going along with Ferengi traditions and asks for something else. This is rather frustrating Garrick, who's shown them 153 dresses so far, and Leeta doesn't like any of them.
That sounds right.
Rom did say previously that they wanted a traditional Bajoran wedding.
Yeah.
So wouldn't there be some kind of traditional Bajoran outfit? Or is it really up to just whatever the bride wants?
Well, I don't know. I don't really even understand human weddings most of the time, so hard to say. But it does seem like, even if you were going to pick some sort of traditional American wedding, not all wedding dresses are the same. People still do spend a lot of time picking the right dress.
True.
But yeah, you'd think there'd at least be a style or something that they could go on.
Right. Well, Quark interrupts because he's annoyed that Leeta is taking too long away from the Dabo tables and tells Rom that anything other than a traditional Ferengi wedding is doomed. And seeing as
Yeah.
Rom had a Ferengi wedding the first time. You'd think Quark would be able to put those two things together. But anyway.
He just likes to complain.
As you said in Ferengi Love Songs, he does whine a lot.
Yeah, he's very whiny, especially when it's about his brother being happy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Miles and Sisko are walking on the promenade, and we learn that Keiko and the children have moved back to Earth where it's safer. Well, Sisko and Miles now watch through an observation window as the wormhole opens, and an awful lot of Jem'Hadar ships fly through. And then Miles says, "I wish they just attack and get it over with." Sisko replies, "I have the feeling you're going to get your wish." And we go into the opening credits.
Yep.
Now that was a very to-the-point opening. It went straight from Rom wanting to get married and a little bit of upbeat to we're on the brink of war.
Well, there was a little bit of faff in there as we had to have that nonsense with the wedding dress.
Yeah.
And by the way, we never showed anything revealing or sexy that Rom could wear, so we could have added that in to make it a little fairer.
I don't think there's any way you could get a Ferengi sexy or revealing.
Yeah, well.
We now go to Sisko's quarters, and Sisko is actually cooking for Jake. And we learn Jake is now writing for a newspaper, or in this case, a news pad.
News service.
And Sisko is very not thrilled about the situation.
Yeah.
Jake tells his father, "You're a public figure. You're the captain of the most important space station in the Federation. You're news." A disgruntled Sisko replies, "Don't remind me."
Yeah, but you can't quote your dad without telling him he's on the record. I mean, Jake needs to take a journalistic ethics course or something. I mean, this was the 90s when that was still a thing, before the internet.
Yeah, when there used to be journalism.
And ethics. All of which are gone now.
There are some people that would question whether journalism had any ethics.
Well, I will say I took a journalism ethics course when I was in college, and my conclusion was there really aren't any, and I decided to change my major.
And it worked out in the end, so nobody's complaining.
But my point is there was a class about it,
yeah.
So he should have taken a class.
Before we leave this, I think it's telling of Sisko that he doesn't like the spotlight being on him.
I felt like he was madder that he didn't realize something he said to Jake would end up in the newspaper.
Yeah.
That seemed annoying, and I don't think Jake should be doing that without telling him, "Oh, is that on the record?"
That's true.
Yeah, I just think that was what annoyed him.
You could look at it as Jake was privy to private information.
Right.
Or non-public information.
Exactly. And I don't know if he doesn't like being a public figure or if he's cautious about being sort of the voice of Starfleet.
Oh.
That's maybe not what his job is. I'm not the
Right.
spokesperson. I'm not the PR team. That's somebody else's job to give the public response or the public message.
Right.
Also in this scene, if Sisko is really cooking at that counter, it needs to be higher. That thing is actually at his thigh level. That's very hard on your neck and back. Replicate a higher table.
We now go to the cargo bay with Kira and Dax, and they found a large consignment of smuggled Yamak sauce. Kira realizes it must be Quark's, and that he's hedging his bets that the Cardassians are going to retake the station.
She calls him that little worm.
All I can say is, welcome Klingons.
Right.
Quark does actually sometimes try to look to the future.
Well, he keeps his options open.
Yes. Dax now asks Kira why she seems kind of cool towards Odo. And Kira tells Dax that the future Odo from the alternative timeline told her that he has feelings for her.
And has for years.
And now this is going to be all over Dax's podcast.
Oh, yeah. Inappropriate conversations.
Dax says, that explains a lot. And Kira asks, it does? Dax replies, not really. It just seemed like the right thing to say. I like that because that was that kind of quirky Dax.
Yeah.
It's still funny that neither of them had any idea, along with pretty much everybody else on the station.
Except for Quark.
I do feel the future alternative timeline Odo was kind of a total jerk for telling Kira any of that.
Wow. That's a tough one because he is Odo.
Yeah.
He has every right to be Odo in that scenario. And at that point, he feels probably that he's 200 years more evolved. And you know how people like that are. They think that their way is the right way and they stomp on anybody to just do whatever they want.
True.
He didn't think about his own feelings and what that would do to himself, the one who was in the bucket.
Yeah.
He should have had that conversation with him. Hey, you need to tell Kira.
Right.
But Look at it from the point of view of the future Odo. He went through a mourning period because Kira had died in that timeline. And he obviously had spent 200 years regretting that he had never spoken up. So if you spend that long regretting something and then you get an opportunity to change it, I think you're going to change it. I'm not sure that jerk is the right classification of what he did, but I get your point.
I understand what you're saying, but I feel that it puts Kira in a very difficult position. And I like your idea of maybe he should have told that Odo, before it's too late, before you live 200 years of regret, tell her what you feel.
Yeah, that's what he should have done. Totally.
Yeah.
But Odo was in a bucket, and Kira was in front of him, looking all cute with her hair. He's looking all Fabio. Yeah. I mean, come on.
Right. In Sisko's office, Nog is asking if the rumors about the Romulans having signed a non-aggression pact with the Dominion are true. He heard this from traders in Quarks. Sisko quotes the rule of acquisition 190 at Nog. Hear all, trust nothing. # fake news. After Nog leaves, Sisko asks Dax to patch him through to Starfleet intelligence. This is where I think if the Ferengis' hearing was so good and they could tune it to listen to individual conversations, they would be the greatest spies ever.
Yes. They could sit anywhere in that bar and hear any conversation, or anywhere on the station and hear any conversation. They could hear through walls. They'd be able to know, for example, last week when Weyoun and the Jem'Hadar were in quarters, they would have been able to hear what was going on in there.
Right, because Quark could hear Odo sloshing around in his bucket, or his tubes, whatever it was.
Whatever it was, yeah.
We now cut to Worf declaring, "The Romulans, I knew they were without honor, and now they have proven it."
Yeah, stupid Romulans.
I think, though, if you'd watched TNG, you'd know that was pretty much a given.
Yeah, but when they appeared... I can't remember now. Which episode is it where this all started, where the Jem'Hadar started coming through in the attack through the wormhole, and then the Romulans appeared at the station, and it was like, oh, cool. No, we didn't even see a single Romulan, and now they've signed a non-aggression treaty, and they're gone. Jerks.
Good way to get them out of the picture for the time being.
Yeah, right.
So we see we're in a meeting of the senior staff. Odo lists the Miradorn, the Tholians, and points out that the Dominion has made impressive inroads into the Alpha Quadrant, as they've signed treaties with them.
Yeah, that's really scary. They're really showing that the Federation is becoming isolated, and the station in particular.
Oh yeah, very much so.
I was getting very uncomfortable at this point in the story.
We learn that the Bajorans are still talking to the Dominion, and Kira says that her people would never sign an agreement with them. Miles reports that more Dominion ships come through the wormhole every week, and Worf replies, "This must stop." Sisko says, "It's going to stop. Starfleet Command has agreed no more Dominion ships will be allowed in the Alpha Quadrant, and they're going to mine the entrance of the wormhole." Odo says, "If we try and stop the convoys, it may very well start a war." Sisko tells them all they're losing the peace, so a war may be their only hope.
Yeah.
So as this was a meeting of the senior staff, don't you think they should have done a phaser sweep on Bashir in particular?
Or Odo should just try to merge with him. And then they would have all been like, oh man, again? Come on, Bashir.
Is this the real Bashir?
Because we've sort of stopped even talking about that. I mean, have they given up, or is it because they haven't figured out what to do about it, so they just accept it?
Well, there can be changelings everywhere. We just accept it as normal.
Or they just assume Bashir is one.
The other thing here is, I think it's funny that they're talking about, oh, this could lead to war.
Yeah.
Since the Dominion arrived, they've tried to blow up Bajor's sun, destroy the station. They've infiltrated all over the place. And the Federation has been playing ostrich for months. You've been at war since they appeared.
Yeah, you haven't accepted it yet, but it's happening.
Right. Miles and Dax are now working on what type of mines to use. Miles suggests cloaking them, and Dax says, out loud, what we've known for a while, cloaking doesn't always work against the Dominion.
Yes.
They're having a hard time figuring out how to get the mines to work, and we see Rom is also in this meeting, but very distracted. He seems to be having butterflies about the wedding.
Yeah.
He's kind of panicking about all the things that can go wrong. I really like this because his final panic is, what if I can't make Leeta happy?
Yeah.
And I thought that was a nice little touch, that her happiness was important to him.
Yeah. And he's completely right. The lack of closet space is a problem. That won't make her happy. We were just talking about the lack of closet space yesterday in our own house.
Yeah. But Rom comes to the rescue as he has an idea, self-replicating mines. Dax and Miles start working out the small details, while Rom starts a new panic about his quarters and them not being too big, and he hasn't requested larger ones. I like the juxtaposition of Miles and Dax being very serious about what they're doing, and Rom kind of being in this panic mode, but still throwing out really good ideas.
No, that was a good scene. And don't forget the very important point that the entire minefield has to be in place before you can activate it.
Yes.
That'll be important later. I've said it before. Why are we not just saying, Sisko, can you please just ask the prophets to turn the Dominion ships into dust when they try to come through? You got to use all your allies.
Sisko is coming out of his office, and both Kira and Worf want to know the levels of reinforcements they will be getting. Sisko then drops the bombshell.
Zip.
We're not getting any. Sisko tells them Starfleet resources are needed elsewhere.
I wondered at this point if that was just a hand wave that we didn't want to explain why there weren't more ships, but I'm glad that at least we learn later what that was about.
Yes. Kira asks, what is more important than defending this station? And Worf, the ever-loyal warrior, tells her, that is not for us to decide. What are your orders, Captain? I can see Kira's frustration here. She spent her whole life defending her world from the Cardassians. And now it looks like they're on the brink of war and they're coming back and Starfleet is not providing the resources to defend her world.
Yeah, and I really relate to her in this moment. I've found it hard in my own life when there's just something stupid. I just can't get over not knowing why. I need to know why. Somebody just tell me why.
Right.
And in a military situation where you're not getting the whys, you're not privy to it, I mean, that would just be so hard to not take it personally. She's probably being like, oh, so they're just abandoning us.
Exactly. After everything, and her support for joining the Federation and her support for Sisko, to be told, push has come to shove, bottom of the list, we're not going to help.
I'm surprised she didn't just go, well, then screw you. I'm going back to Bajor. Why am I here? Why am I on this stupid station?
You'd think that would be a reaction, but do you think it's because she trusts the emissary?
Yes. I think it's because she trusts the emissary, and not just the emissary. She said a couple of episodes ago that she was learning to trust Starfleet, and that's because of the team that she's been surrounded by.
Good take.
Which I like. Anybody loyal to a team, I love.
Kira is then going to see Odo about security measures and disabling transmissions, probably because the station leaks like a sieve.
Bashir.
Odo agrees to the plan and tells her about how he was thinking of asking her out to dinner, but because of the current situation, he won't. They both laugh. Finally getting all of this out in the open seems to have cleared the air.
Did we really clear the air or get anything out in the open? I mean, this seems like the perfect time to hook up. A distraction from terrible things going on around you. And also, by the way, cling to the happiness you can before you all get killed by the Dominion.
That's the perfect time.
Yeah, they've got this all backwards.
We now have a great effect shot of the Defiant deploying the minefield, and Sisko is giving us a voiceover. Apparently, the Dominion does not like what they are doing, and they have sent Weyoun to talk to Sisko. This time, Weyoun is not in friendly mode.
Why on earth would they just allow armed Jem'Hadar soldiers onto the station and in the same room as the captain?
Right at the point they are about to go to war.
That was ridiculous. That made no sense. I could see them coming together, but in a neutral location where neither one of them had armed guards.
No, especially we saw what happens when you had two rival groups meet in a cargo bay when they're armed.
All right, everybody started shooting. Yeah.
Weyoun tells Sisko, you will either remove the minefield or we will take the station from you.
Yeah, drama.
Sisko tells Weyoun he will not allow any more reinforcements through the wormhole. Weyoun here briefly loses it and very angrily says, you will not allow? And then he suddenly pulls it back and turns on the charm again. Combs, once again, brings Weyoun absolutely to life. Just perfect. Weyoun then goes into a spiel about how they're both reasonable men. Surely they can come to a compromise. They misunderstand the Dominion. They only want to peacefully coexist with their neighbors. I guess that includes the use of generational biological weapons on people who disagree.
Yeah.
That's quite peaceful. See the quickening for details?
Ugh.
Weyoun then claims the troop and ship buildup is because of the Cardassians.
Oh, yes.
They only want to be secure within their borders.
And think of the children.
throw the cardies under the bus. Weyoun then tries to play the sympathy card, saying when they arrived on Cardassia, children were starving.
Think of the children. That's what the Cardassians always say.
The thing I thought was great here is I really got the impression Weyoun was just probing to see what works.
Yeah, that's what he does.
Seeing if the angry outrage would cause Sisko to back off, and then trying the aren't we friends, and then trying to appeal to Sisko's empathy of starving children.
Didn't work.
So well done and so believable. Possibly the scene of the show.
Oh, I agree. This is an absolute turning point. The performances in this episode are really good. We had the Odo Kira scene where just the look on their faces was so priceless. And then we moved to this scene, and these are two powerhouse performances.
Yeah.
And the way that they both are sort of keeping that anger and maybe a little bit of fear on Sisko's part just right under the surface, it's brilliant. This is a great scene. I completely agree.
Weyoun finally offers a compromise, saying the Dominion will only send medical and economic assistance through the wormhole.
Sure.
Sisko says he will talk to Starfleet about the plan, and Weyoun leaves, saying, "This is a momentous day. You and I have taken the first steps to ensuring peace between our peoples." And my note here says, the spirit of the Munich Agreement lives on. More homework for listeners.
Okay. So Weyoun is just flat out lying here, right?
Yeah, he was completely lying. Sisko is meeting with everyone, now including Martog, and he tells them that they're going to attack. He knew Weyoun was lying, and the compromise was just trying to lull him into a false sense of security.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Sisko believes they could attack as early as tomorrow. Dax, who's on the Defiant, says she needs more time to finish the minefield. He tells Martog to take his ship to patrol the border and sound the alarm at the first sign of Dominion ships. Bashir now asks if Starfleet could send a few more ships. Sisko replies, they're on their own. No other ships will be sent.
Yikes.
Kira tells Sisko she'll see if the Bajoran militia can spare a few ships. Instead, Sisko tells her to contact the Council of Ministers. He needs to speak to them immediately. She asks, as a Starfleet officer or as an emissary of the Prophets? Perhaps surprisingly, he replies, both. Love that.
She's like, well, that'll get somebody's attention.
She tells him that the non-aggression pact is still being debated in the council and it'll never pass. Sisko replies, it will pass if the emissary endorses it.
Yep.
Kira is surprised by this turn of events and asks him why. He tells her that if there will be a war, the Federation cannot guarantee Bajor's safety.
No, it's the right thing to do.
Oh, completely. And this is showing his visions of the future was correct.
Yep.
It's just a shame everybody ignored the bit about the Dominion War.
Right.
If you just listen to the emissary, just saying. We now have another voiceover where Sisko explains Bajor has signed the non-aggression pact with the Dominion, and the Bajoran staff are being evacuated from the station. Zial is going to Bajor and is worried that Garak is staying behind. He tells her a story saying, the moral is, never underestimate my gift for survival.
That was cute.
And she kisses him and leaves on a transport.
Boy, I would not feel great as a half Cardassian on Bajor right now.
Yeah, especially when it looks like history is about to repeat.
Yeah.
We now go to the marriage of Rom and Leeta, with Sisko conducting the ceremony in Bajoran, with Nog, Quark, and one of the Dabo women as witnesses. Quark is complaining about it not being a traditional Ferengi wedding, but Rom stands up for himself and says, but you are very happy for us, aren't you, brother? It doesn't happen very often, but I do always like it when Rom puts Quark in his place.
I don't know why we invited Quark. At least Nog is supportive.
Yes. Quark sarcastically says, overjoyed, and then as he leaves, tells the Dabo woman, I give it 2 months.
Oh my gosh. Terrible.
Rom wants Leeta to leave the station and delivers a surprisingly eloquent speech. Reluctantly, she agrees. I do think that was probably the right thing to do.
Yeah, but doesn't Rom work for the Bajorans? So hopefully he'll get his job back if we ever get the station back.
Yeah, technically he does.
Yeah, because he wears a Bajoran communicator, not a Starfleet one.
I guess it's kind of all up in the air right now.
Yeah. Everything's chaos.
In Sisko's office, the computer tells him program Sisko 197 is ready for implementation.
Oh, I like a secret.
Yes. And Sisko's written a lot of programs.
196 of them at least.
Yeah. Rom calls Sisko to ops, and Martog is reporting that a large force of ships has been detected. Martog's transmission is interrupted, and we see Dukat on screen, and he asks Sisko if he'd like to surrender, which Sisko declines.
What are those stupid plastic things they're wearing?
Those are the visors that we saw in the ship, if you remember.
So those are Dominion things, not Cardassian things?
Yes, those are the Dominion view screens.
The little mini ones for each person.
Exactly.
Oh, right, because they didn't allow the Jem'Hadar to see outside. Only the Vorta could see with those things. But they look so dumb in practice. There's one scene, actually there's a couple of scenes where Marc Alaimo as Dukat, where he's like trying to get the thing out of his shot. He's like leaning to the side. Oh my gosh, those things are hilarious.
Oh, I didn't notice that. I will have to rewatch.
Yeah, he doesn't want that in his shot.
Well, Sisko orders battle stations and we go into the ad break.
Scary.
This is classic Star Trek.
Oh my gosh.
The Dominion fleet is now 20 minutes away and all the Bajorans have been evacuated. Sisko expresses his concerns about the Dominion honoring the Bajoran non-aggression pact.
Yeah.
Dax calls saying she has another hour of work and he needs to buy her more time. Meanwhile, Jake is working with Bashir, handing out medical kits. You know, out of all of them there, Jake, strangely enough, is one of the few who's actually had real combat experience.
Jake and Bashir.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much learned the hard way.
Wasn't his best day.
But he is a hero.
Right, because he accidentally shot the ceiling. That's right, I forgot about that.
Odo is watching from the promenade, and Garak comes to talk to him. Odo says he feels useless as all of his staff are evacuated. Garak now tells him a story about how during the battle with the Klingons, when he was fighting side by side with Gul Dukat, Dukat turned his back on him, and for a moment, he made a very tempting target. Odo asks, "You'd shoot a man in the back?" Garak, in perfect form, replies, "It's the safest way, isn't it?" Perfect Garak. Garak then explains to Odo that he couldn't fight all these Klingons by himself, so he let Dukat live. Odo asks, "So you regret it?" Garak responds, "Before this day is over, everyone on this station is going to regret it."
Yeah, that was a good line.
I bet this actually gnaws at Garak. He had a chance to kill an enemy and didn't. And at the same time, he's probably got Tane in his head saying, "You don't leave loose ends no matter what."
Yeah.
What kind of son are you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he hears Tane going, "Moron."
Oh, yeah.
Worst dad ever.
We're doing lots of short scenes here with all the major characters showing how they're preparing for this battle. We get a short scene with Quark and Rom, and we learn that basically they try and look after each other. So they're not such terrible brothers after all. There is a little bit of caring. It's probably some of that Federation wearing off on Quark, I think.
Yeah, probably. It's the root beer.
Definitely. Martok and his ship have returned to the station, and Sisko orders him to take a defensive position by the Defiant, as they need to deploy the mines no matter the cost. And Worf now begins activating the station's weapons array. Kira comes to Ops and lodges an official complaint from the Bajoran government to turn the station over to Bajoran control. Sisko replies, "Duly noted." And Kira responds, "Now that's over. Kira Nerys reporting for duty." A nice piece of politicking by the Bajoran government.
Yep.
The fig leaf of, well, we asked them to stop. We even made an official complaint and they just ignored us.
They wouldn't leave. Yeah.
And at the same time, Kira doing the beautiful, well, I followed my orders, not the spirit of them, but I followed my orders.
Yep, I did what I was supposed to.
Yep. They're really playing up the music as well in this episode, as we get some very dramatic build-up as they're getting ready for battle. And then we go to this great effect shot, love this stuff, of the joint Cardassian and Dominion fleet. And the camera pans around it and we see them approaching Deep Space Nine.
And in this scene, talking about the music, it's very Star Wars-y. Now we're starting to get those like dun dun dun, and you know you're waiting for Darth Vader. Yeah. So the music was quite different here in this episode, and they used this part of it, this section of that music, a lot in the last part of the episode.
I think this episode, in terms of a battle at the station, this is more dramatic than the Klingon attack.
Oh,
at the beginning
absolutely.
Of the season.
Yeah, this is much scarier. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the music makes it worse, but also obviously all of the lead up to it made it worse as well. They basically have spent how many seasons making us terrified of this event, and here it is.
Right. The other thing I was thinking in this scene where you see all the ships is just shouting, "Open fire, all weapons!"
All weapons!
On the Dominion flagship, Damar announces weapons range in 1 minute, and Dukat announces how he's been waiting for this moment for 5 years.
As he looks around the plastic thing on his shoulder.
Yes. Damar says, first we reclaim Terak Nor, and then onto Bajor. Weyoun, who's hovering in the background, says, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We just signed a pact with Bajor. To which Dukat says, I never did.
Oh.
Weyoun goes into that really serious mode and says, the Dominion will honor its treaty. As members of the Dominion, you will honor it as well. I think you're getting the first hints here of a rift in priorities. Is Dukat really a reliable ally? And are they all on the same page here?
Oh, they're absolutely not on the same page. Dukat does that thing here where he says, where the Dominion leads, I will follow, right? Like, of course, I'm right. We're all on the same page. We're all on the same team. But, maybe he's not so dumb. Maybe he does know that the Dominion are not necessarily his friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a tenuous agreement between the two of them, or a tenuous alliance, I would say, at best.
Yes, and Dukat seems very disingenuous.
100%, yeah, even his tone.
And now, Dukat orders the attack to start. And maybe this is jumping into overanalysis. We also get another indication here how Dukat is basically inept in his military skills. He splits his force into 2 parts, to attack the station and to attack the Defiant. Instead of doing the smart thing and either taking out the Defiant, which was laying the minefield, which is very important and probably should be the priority, and then attacking the station. But no, he splits his forces. I hope it was deliberate that the writers were showing Dukat was making a very deliberate tactical mistake, because his ego is all about getting the station back.
Yeah, I didn't get that at all, why he used that tactic, but it would make sense if that's what they're trying to show. That he was just like, oh, he'll just take a couple of shots to take down the station, and we'll just get it back. Everything will be fine. I kept thinking, why would you not, even instead of trying to blow up the Defiant, why would you not start blowing up the mines? Like, shoot a couple of them and let them all destroy each other.
Exactly. Take all your forces, destroy the minefield. That's your priority.
Yeah.
Let's say it took most of your ships. Once the minefield's gone, you can bring in as many more as you want through the wormhole.
Yeah. I think we've seen now a couple of times where people aren't making great decisions.
Particularly Dukat is not a great decision maker.
Yeah. I was very uncomfortable as they were shooting at the station. I think this happened before when Klingons were attacking the station. I was just like, oh, I don't like this. Stop shooting at my floating strip mall. I don't like it.
Wow, have we ever come a long way?
Oh, yeah, it's true.
You actually care about the floating gas station.
Yeah, I think the whole problem is I don't like change.
Oh.
And now I've gotten comfortable at the strip mall. Stop shooting at it.
And now we have the great space battle of the episode. The Dominion fleet is opening fire. Deep Space Nine is responding. This is awesome. We've got phasers going everywhere. Ships are blowing up. There's explosions. Photon torpedoes being launched.
Mm-hmm.
Fabulous effect shot. This is movie quality effects here. This must have been ridiculously expensive for the time period it was filmed in.
I'm sure they were reusing shots like we talked about in the last episode. But yes, I imagine it was quite expensive.
Damar reports that the station's shields are holding, and a very surprised Weyoun says, Federation shields have always proved useless against our weapons. I felt this was another piece of that Dominion founder arrogance.
Mm-hmm.
How could an inferior race be resisting us?
Yeah. How could they have learned something from all the other times that we shot at them?
Exactly. The space battle continues, and we see more Dominion ships are getting toasted. On the Defiant, O'Brien tells Dax they need a few minutes more, and they get attacked by 3 Jem'Hadar ships. As the Defiant is getting pasted, naturally, Martog's bird of prey decloaks, flies straight at the Dominion ships, taking the middle one out immediately. Dax now delivers what I think is the line of the episode, which is, who says there's never a Klingon around when you need one?
Yeah, Martog liked that too. He's like, ha ha ha.
Can you imagine the cheering and the singing that's going on the Klingon ship at this moment?
Oh yeah, they were having a good time.
Back on the station, shields are only 35%, and Dukat is pressing home his attack. Again, seemingly avoiding the most important target of stopping the minefield.
Yep.
As the attack progresses, there's explosions going on all over the station. We get several classic Star Trek exploding panels with people falling over railings. We haven't had any roof beams fall on anyone yet.
No, there were no roof beams. Yep.
And we know their roof beams exist because if you remember a few weeks ago on Impact Nor, there was a fallen roof beam.
Mm-hmm.
I feel we missed an opportunity here.
For some roof beams?
Yes.
We could have reused one of many shots.
Totally. Well, all this work seems to have paid off as Dax calls Sisko, telling him the minefield is ready, and we see an outside shot of the vast minefield starting to cloak.
Woohoo!
Back onto Kat's ship, Damar tells them that the minefield is active, and Wei-Yun says, "This isn't turning out quite the way I planned." Well, it's your own fault for leaving Dukat in charge.
Yeah, why did you let Dukat be in charge? He's got his own agenda and his own plans.
Dukat does what I believe is now the classic Cardassian thing in this situation, which is downplay just how much of a failure this has been.
A minor setback.
Back in Ops, and Kira is reporting that another wave of ships is entering the Bajoran system. And Sisko says, "We've done all we can. We're evacuating the station." Everyone looks shocked as we go into the second dramatic ad break of the show.
No. You know what we should do? We should just hide in the conduits.
Oh, it's worked before.
It has. Climb up there, get some rations.
Hang out with the voles.
Hang out with the voles, yeah.
There's a lot of activity as the station is being evacuated, and Dax comes to find Worf because he's going off on Martog's ship. She tells a very confused Worf that, "Yes, I will marry you, and if that doesn't give you a reason to survive, I don't know what will." And she kisses him and leaves.
When she says, "That's what you've wanted all along, right?" And he's like, yeah. That was maybe the first time that I actually thought Worf really does love her, but I'm still not sure that I like the way he treats her. But anyway, that's a different story.
Sisko is now on the promenade giving a speech, and I think he's standing outside the temple.
Yeah, I think that's where he was standing, because there seems to be a camera on the front door, which we've used before.
Ah. Well, he's telling everyone left on the station, including Kira, Odo, Morn, and Quark, that he looks at this place as home and them as family.
Aww.
And leaving it is the hardest thing he's ever had to do.
Yeah.
He also tells them that while the Dominion fleet was distracted, a joint Federation and Klingon task force destroyed the Dominion shipyards on Toros 3. So there's our answer for where the rest of the fleet were and why they didn't get any reinforcements. He then tells them he will not rest until he returns to this place where he belongs. And a defiant General MacArthur Sisko beams away to the Defiant.
That was a great Star Trek captain speech. Loved it.
Oh, yes. Beautifully delivered by Avery. And after Sisko beams away, they play a quiet version of the DS9 theme.
Aw.
On the Defiant, Garrick is also there, and he asks Sisko if he may come along, because at the end of the day, he has nowhere else to go.
Oh, he really doesn't.
I do not think he wants to be on the station when Gul Dukat turns up.
No. He probably could have gone somewhere out of the way on Bajor with Zayal, but I get it.
Yeah. And we get one of the closing effect shots of the Defiant and Martog's bird of prey side by side, flying away from the station and cloaking, past the Dominion fleet.
Yep.
Kira and Odo then go to Ops and signal the Dominion fleet that the Bajoran government welcomes them to Deep Space Nine. She then tells the computer to initiate program Sisko 197, which toasts everything in Ops. There are electrical sparks everywhere, and you see all the computers going up in smoke.
That was quite a program.
Yes.
Caused quite a destruction.
In Quark's bar, he's already disposing of all the root beer and getting Kanar and trying to find his Yamak sauce.
Where is my Yamak sauce?
Welcome, Klingons.
Oh, that made me laugh.
Morn is fully on board with everything as he's already returned to his spot in the bar. And then Rom comes into the bar and makes a very loud announcement that he's working for Quark again. Quark asks him, "Do you think you can just get your old job back?" Rom replies, "Actually, I'm a spy working for Starfleet, but don't tell anyone."
Yeah, you certainly shouldn't have told Quark, but at the same time, Quark would have lost all of his Bajoran staff, so I would think he desperately needs anyone who will help.
Yeah, and he wouldn't have to pay Rom very much because exploitation begins at home.
Exactly.
Also, as much as I like Rom, I wonder really, is it a good idea to have him as a spy? I might actually agree with Quark here where he says the Federation must be more desperate than he thought.
Yeah, he's not the person I would pick to be a spy.
Quark hands Rom a tray and shouts, "Get back to work at him." And as Rom walks to the back of the bar, he finds Jake.
Oh no.
Jake has decided to stay, and he says he's a reporter and there's a war going on. He also is hedging his bets that as the emissary's son and the Dominion having a treaty with Bajor, they won't hurt him and risk their new friends on Bajor.
This is a very shaky argument as the Dominion's not afraid of the Bajorans.
Yes. Jake is taking something of a big risk here.
Yeah, he did not think this through. But, Deep Space Nine plan.
Oh, yeah, that is totally a Deep Space Nine plan. Maybe he could hide behind a moon.
He might have to.
We then cut to the Defiant, where an angry Sisko is asking, what the hell was Jake thinking?
Oh.
But he can't go back now and risk the entire crew. So Jake obviously did not clear this idea with his dad.
Nope.
Back on the station, the Jem'Hadar are forcing an airlock open, and Dukat and Damar are back on the station. Damar says, this is a great victory for Cardassia. Weyoun points out that over 50 ships were lost, the dockyards on Taurus 3 were destroyed, a victory, but a costly one.
He should have said, 50 ships for this dump?
I don't think Weyoun is all that enthusiastic about the Cardassian sense of victory.
Yeah.
A tactical win, a strategic loss.
Mm-hmm.
And Dukat is basically strutting down the promenade.
Yes.
He is so full of himself.
And Damar is too. He's also just totally full of himself. He's having the best time.
Because I'm looking at this scene and I'm just imagining Weyoun thinking, what are we doing with these idiots?
Yeah.
They've cost them 50 ships, the dockyard's destroyed. Yep. These are not very good allies.
I mean, I have no idea what happens from here, but this is where Weyoun should be telling the founders, right, that, we should not be hooked up with these guys. They are idiots. We're in big trouble. We need to do something else. Can I just kill them all?
The new guys might not be working out.
Yeah. Yes.
Kira, Odo, and Quark then approach them, and on behalf of the Bajoran government, Kira welcomes them to Deep Space Nine. Dukat replies, you mean Terak Nor?
Ugh.
Weyoun then sees Odo and almost reverentially bows to him, saying, Founder, we are honored by your decision to remain with us. It's not addressed here, but I wonder how the founders briefed Weyoun on what to do with Odo, or if they just ignored Odo.
Yeah, because they must know by now that he's got his shape-shifting abilities back.
Yeah, exactly. Odo brushes it off, saying he's the chief of security. But Weyoun continues, saying, having a god walking amongst us is almost gratifying.
Ugh.
This is one of the very few times we see Weyoun being absolutely genuine. I think to him, this really is a god.
Oh, for sure.
Dukat and Weyoun make their way to Ops, which is fully trashed, thanks to Sisko 197. And in Sisko's office, we see he's left his baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Weyoun asks, what is that? And Dukat replies, it's a message. He's letting me know he'll be back.
Yeah, that was good.
We close on a pensive-looking Sisko on the bridge of the Defiant, flying towards a joint, vast fleet, and we can see dozens of Starfleet and Klingon ships. The end.
Wow, that was a good cliffhanger for the end of the season.
Oh, agreed.
Well, you've done most of the talking, but do you also have some over-analysis?
Why, yes, I think I do.
Okay.
So let's start off with, I don't think it had been invented yet, but this is why the Vulcan Hello is the only approach the Federation and Starfleet should have taken with the Dominion soon as they headed for Cardassia. Every step of the way, they have just been paving the road to disaster. The minute the Dominion came through the wormhole, every resource Starfleet had should have been thrown into destroying them.
Yes, I totally, wholeheartedly agree. We should have created a new one, the Dominion Hello.
That would have been great.
Hello, boom, you're dead.
Wow, they would have been a problem if we'd let them set up a base and had time to resupply and fortify their positions.
Who could have seen this coming?
Next thing, now we see that they're at war and the idiot Cardassian fleet is distracted. Why could we not use some of those marquee biogenic weapons on every single Cardassian world? We know the Dominion has no moral qualms about using weapons of mass destruction. So instead of taking the moral high ground and being wiped out, fight a total war, destroy the Cardassians utterly. Otherwise, the Dominion will destroy your way of life and potentially use biological weapons that will destroy your race for generations and have no compunction about doing it.
No, that's a really good point. If we're really at war, which it seems like we are because there's been an all-out attack, then put that, whatever that stuff was that we used for the uniform, put it on the Defiant, cloak our way to Cardassia Prime, deploy it.
Every Cardassian world.
Well, you start with Prime.
Oh, yeah.
They'll start to scatter from there, but yeah. Well, I mean, why not? That's the kind of tactics that the Dominion will undertake and have.
Yeah, you have history of it.
Just 5 minutes ago, they were trying to destroy that sun. This is crazy. Let's just sit back and see what happens. It'll be fine.
What's the worst they could do?
Oh my gosh. Well, they could do that thing they did in the Quickening and basically destroy you for generations.
Yes. Next thing. Now, where's Emperor Giorgio when you need her?
Yes.
She knows how to wage an aggressive war.
She would have the tactics you need.
At the very least, couldn't you defrost Khan and assign him a small flotilla?
I think that's a different timeline.
Yeah.
But yes, we need someone who's able to think brutally. I mean, that did happen in Discovery. We started doing things that were not very Starfleet-y because we had to survive. And this is an opportunity to do something like that.
Right. It's a shame they don't have Khan at this point. He'd be useful. Next thing, Garak. I have the feeling he does not want to be on Bajor. Not because they'll particularly be hostile to him. They'd probably be politely rude. But I think it's because he still has that really bad attitude towards the Bajorans.
Oh.
I think he would have that superiority aspect of his character, that Cardassian aspect. And it's a little bit too ingrained.
You're right.
And in fact, it's to his detriment. So he's somewhat forced to go to Sisko and ask because he can't get over his own biases against the Bajorans.
I mean, you're probably right. I would hope that he learns through Zael that his racist tendencies...
Natural xenophobia.
The natural xenophobia. Yeah, needs some work. He needs some work on his own character.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the racist part of him is convincing himself that the Cardassian part of Zael is actually lifting her up.
Oh, wow. That's very Ducat.
It is, right? Gross.
Well, remember, the Bajorans were forged with Cardassian steel.
Yeah, terrible.
Next thing. The military organization within the Dominion. We saw this was a combined fleet of Cardassian and Dominion ships. Do the Founders allow subjugated races to have their own ships and military personnel? I would worry that this would lead to a threat of rebellion. And plus, what are these other races like when it comes to their military effectiveness when compared to the Jem'Hadar? Because this led me thinking, in some of these worlds that the Dominion have conquered, or ones that maybe say have willingly joined the Dominion, I wonder if there's a deliberate strategy to deify the Founders within the general population. Or if some of the population would be convinced that the changelings were some type of gods. So you'd end up with the same kind of fanaticism as the Jem'Hadar. If some of these people are willingly believing that the Founders are gods.
Well, that's a tricky one. I certainly could see them being so devious that in this particular case, they didn't conquer Cardassia. They forged some kind of a relationship with them just to get a way into the Alpha Quadrant.
Yes.
Isn't it possible that part of their plan is to further weaken the Cardassian military by getting them into these kinds of skirmishes? And they will lose ships and they will lose people, but they know that the Dominion isn't going to lose enough that it will matter to them. So it could just be part of the plan.
Right. Losing Jem'Hadar and ships means nothing to them.
Right.
So you could eventually remove all the Cardassian military because you deliberately get them all killed. Ooh, that's a good point.
I'm not at all sure that the Founders care if anyone else sees them as gods because they feel that they are. I don't think they care how anybody else sees them and whether they're worshipped or not.
Right.
They just want people to obey and to do what they want. They're trying to get rid of the chaos, as they said in one of those episodes.
Interesting.
So I don't think they're looking to be worshipped. They're just looking to be obeyed.
I think you're right there, and I think that they're missing an opportunity. People who believe you are gods would not rebel against you.
Well,
I think that as, again, part of their arrogance, of this, they're missing an opportunity here to have willing sheep.
Except, as we've heard, it's not quite as cut and dried as that, even with the Jem'Hadar soldiers who are basically manufactured to think that they're gods, and it's still not 100%.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's that easy to say, If you worship me, you'll never go against me. But it's probably less frequent, yes.
Right. It would give you a stronger base, potentially.
Yeah.
And the other thing here was the threat of rebellion. If you're allowing these other races to have a military, I would think you would run the risk of some of them, a rogue general or a rogue politician rising up.
Yeah. Then they'll just poison him and
move on to the next world.
I just don't think they care.
Wow, that is kind of brutal.
When you have in your back pocket a simple way to just annihilate an entire race, what do you care?
And you have no morals about doing it.
Yeah.
Well, because you're a god.
It's good because I did it. It's the right thing because I decided it was the right thing.
I think you have nailed the thought process of the founders. Next thing, Gul Dukat. He thinks so small.
Yeah, he just wants the station and Bajor back.
Yeah.
And he thinks this is the way to do it. Why he thinks he needs Bajor to be great again, it doesn't make any sense. Yes, you're part of the Dominion now. Go bigger. What do you care about that? His ego is so messing with everything.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Do you remember Garrick, where he made the description of the Cardassian military being full of gulls with more ego than ability?
Yes.
I think Dukat is the absolute embodiment of this, and now he's risen to the top. It explains everything about the Cardassians.
Totally agree.
Leading on from that, here's an alternative theory.
Okay.
Dukat wants the minefield. He wants the Dominion to be out of the picture so that they can't bring reinforcements in. So he ends up being the most important part of the Dominion, because without him, they'll be outnumbered, or they won't have enough ships, or they won't have dockyards, or whatever. So keeping Dominion reinforcements out makes him all the more important. So they will have to bend to his whims.
That's a good point. If we can't get through the wormhole, then he's got exactly what he wants.
Right. And keeping them sealed up is slightly in his favor.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Although, from everything we've seen about Dukat, his ability really isn't that strategic to think that far ahead.
No.
And my final point, Jake. The Dominion might not want to harm him because he's the son of the emissary and keeping things happy on Bajor is important. But has Jake ever heard of the concept of hostages?
Yeah, this was not a good decision by Jake. It's almost like we needed a way to keep him in the story or something.
Yeah.
Not terribly smart.
Plus, he's writing
for Starfleet.
For the enemy news service.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
It could either be Jake being very naive, or it could also just be bad writing, because if you'd had him writing for a Bajoran news service, that would have made a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Because you could have played up the whole bit of, well, he's working for the Bajorans. He's a human, but he's not part of Starfleet. He's not Federation. Yeah. He's working for the Bajorans.
Yeah, totally agree.
And with that, I think that wraps up my overanalysis.
Well, I'm down to only 1 point in my overanalysis.
Really?
And that is that the minefield will destroy anything that comes through. I mean, for a while there, at least in the beginning of the Deep Space Nine show, we had innocent ships coming through there. Now, nobody can get through. So hopefully they put some kind of a beacon somewhere to just say, don't come through here or you're going to get blowed up.
The wormhole is no longer available. Please use alternative routes.
Yes.
That's a good point. That would be really dangerous for anybody going through if they didn't know.
Yeah. All right, well, then let's go to women in the future.
Okay.
And like I said earlier, I would have liked to have seen a skimpy groom outfit if I had to look at a skimpy bride outfit. Just looking for some equality. That's all I asked for. Otherwise, there's not really a lot to say. Dax was doing her job, and that's what I like to see, is that the women are just allowed to do their jobs and they're not harassed. Kira was doing her job. She wasn't being harassed. And I would not have guessed when we started this show, when they started to make some hints about Odo being in love with Kira, I would never have guessed that I would have gotten to the point where I would think that relationship made any sense whatsoever. But now I get it, okay? Yeah. All right, I get it. You can stop sending me emails about it. I get it. So I did think that scene between the two of them was very well acted.
Yes.
And I don't think they really cleared the air in anything, but the fact that the two of them were super uncomfortable made a lot of sense. And I think these are two great performers who played that really well.
Agreed.
So otherwise, I don't really have anything else to say about women in the future. So I'm going to go to rating. Thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral. What is your rating?
Can I give 2 thumbs up?
You can. It'll only count as 1, but you can.
This was a great episode. It was a very high action. The production quality was amazing. Everything about it, I thought, really worked. They managed to do a great build-up to the battle, which I felt they never really did with Way of the Warrior. Great episode. Thoroughly enjoyable. Rewatchability. I have no idea how many times I've seen this, but fabulous.
Yeah, I can see that it is rewatchable for sure. Yeah, I also give it a thumbs up, though I am going to say that there were things about it that made me uncomfortable. And I don't know if this is what the pandemic has done to me, but I didn't like to watch the station getting beat up. I know I talked about this in The Way of the Warrior. I don't want to see combat. That's not what I'm here for.
Yeah.
But it was also very exciting, and it's building to something, and it was a legitimate cliffhanger to end season 5.
Yeah.
And the music was fun, and the performances were really good. So even though it made me uncomfortable, I still say absolutely thumbs up.
Agreed.
Well, that wraps up Season 5, Episode 26, and Season 5 in general. That is the end of the season.
We have finished another season.
I know, I can't believe it. We only have 2 left of the show before we switch to something else. But next week, we will, of course, do our usual Season 5 wrap-up, where we will go through the mailbag and we will do our top and bottom episodes of the season. Then we are going to take 2 weeks off before we start season 6. I know normally in the past we've only taken 1 week off, but this time we're going to take 2. It has been a little bit of a grind, and I think we could use a break before we come back to you with new episodes. So, in the meantime, if you'd like to send us your own over-analysis of this or any episode, or if you just want to say something nice, you can email us at ReBingeIT@gmail.com or tweet us at ReBingeIT. You can check us out on TalkThroughMedia.com, where you can leave feedback for individual episodes, and you can listen to the other Star Trek podcasts in our network. And if you're wondering if we have a Patreon, we do, but it's not just for our podcast. It's for all of the Talk Through Media podcasts. So if you want to support that, you can go to patreon.com/Star Trek TTM.
Thanks for joining us on the Rebinge Deep Space Nine podcast.
That's it for me.
And that's it from me.